Today we'll rank all 119 cards in Clash Royale from the very worst all the way to the very best. Starting off our list as the very worst card in the game, we have the Barbarian Hut. It's 6 elixir and can get practically fully countered by a 2 elixir bomber. That's all you have to know. Taking spot number 118 is the Mirror. Now the Mirror can be very broken in certain scenarios when a really strong card is meta, like for example Phoenix. It was really good with the Mirror just because of how broken that card was, but it was not the Mirror itself really being good, it was just the fact that there was a broken card that you could play more by using the Mirror. So yeah. We have the Goblin Hut at spot number 117. Now it is decent for chip damage, but so many spells in the game counter it very easily. I mean, even a Log takes out basically half the HP of it, and it just really struggles to defend against a lot of stuff. At number 116, we have the 3 Musketeers. I feel like they might deserve some sort of buff somehow, but I'm honestly really not sure how they could buff it, because right now they just get pretty much fully countered by a 3 elixir Evo Cannon. Let me know if you guys have any suggestions. At spot 115 are the Elite Barbarians. Now they used to be decent in stuff like Sparky or some bridge spam decks, but now in bridge spam you can just have Evo Barbs instead, or you can have Boss Bandit, and in Sparky it's usually better to just have a cheaper mini Pekka, so they've really just gotten beaten out of the meta. Man, how the mighty have fallen. We now have the Rune Giant at spot number 114. The Rune Giant used to have a permanent buff, so even after it died, the troops that it enchanted would just be enchanted forever, but now that enchantment goes away after 5 seconds when the Rune Giant is dead, so it's really not very good right now. I feel like they nerfed it a little bit too much, and also a lot of the cards that it worked well with, like Goblin Giant, have gotten nerfs as well. We have the Goblin Demolisher at spot number 113. Basically what it is a bomber that's 4 elixir and has maybe just a little bit more HP and stuff like that, but yeah, bomber is so much better in pretty much every single deck, and the Goblin Demolisher basically gets outclassed in every single deck by one card or another, whether it be a bomber or a musketeer, anything like that. For the number 112 spot, we do have Minion Horde. I feel like Minion Horde actually could be a decent card if arrows weren't absolutely everywhere, but despite the nerf they got, everyone's still playing them. The 111th spot does go to the Giant Skeleton. The Giant Skeleton used to be quite good with stuff like Hog EQ, but now there's always Goblins starting to play with Hog EQ, Mighty Mine. There's so many better options, and the Giant Skeleton just seems a little bit too clunky to work in the majority of decks right now. The Skeleton Army is going to take the number 110 spot. Now the main reason why is because other swarm cards like for example Goblin Gang and Guards have been some of the better cards in the meta, and they're 3 elixir and work basically just like the Army, except they're a lot more spell resilient and also apply more pressure too. The 109th spot does go to the Rascals. I remember Rascals were going to get quite a nice buff a while ago, then they kind of reverted part of it. I wonder how they'd be doing right now if they actually got the full buff that they were supposed to get. I feel like they might deserve another small buff, but Bait is actually just so annoying to face right now with the Evo Barrel and stuff that I think it's okay to leave them kind of weak. They're just a little bit too expensive to function that well in this meta. You guys might be a little bit surprised, but we have the Clone Spell at number 108. The reason why I rank it a little bit higher than normal, I would normally put it in the F tier, but I have seen a few Lava Clone players towards the end of the seasons recently, and they've actually been doing pretty good with it. I don't know why, I guess just the surprise factor of it is enough to give it a very, very small use in Clash Royale. Another surprising one at spot number 107 is the Furnace. The Furnace used to always be in the F tier, kind of right alongside the Goblin Hut and the Barb Hut, but I have seen a few RG Lumberjack players start to use it, so I feel like it's not the best, but it's not that far away from being a decent meta card. Taking the 106th spot is the Wizard. Now the Wizard once in a while is kind of decent in decks like Giant or Pekka, but most of the Pekka decks prefer to have something cheaper like a Bomber, and Pekka has just really fallen out of the meta. And by the way guys, in today's tier list, I'm not really fully taking into account the evolutions. I am taking into account the evolutions just a little bit, but I'm mostly just going off of the card itself. At spot number 105 is the Witch. It's pretty much solely usable in stuff like Giant Graveyard once in a while, and I feel like it would be a lot better if the meta was better for it, like if there was a lot more Pekka like how there used to be. But it's not super far away from being an okay card. It got a little bit of a splash damage buff, I believe, a while ago. Taking the 104th spot is the newly buffed Void. It got a buff not super long ago in the, not last balance changes, but the one before that. They made it just do those little bolts a little bit quicker, so it is pretty quick right now. You have to react really quickly to stop it, but it just doesn't really do the damage that it used to, so I don't know what buff it needs, but I feel like it's such a toxic and no-skill card that I don't think I want it to get a buff. The number 103 spot does have to go to the Goblin Curse. I know a lot of people who watch Ken and stuff like that might be really upset, but guys, Goblin Curse just is not good right now. I think the only deck that can actually play it is this one Logbait deck, because it does kind of fit in Logbait decks, since people often have to log the Goblin Curse if you get your curse off on skeletons or something like that, but it really doesn't do much the majority of the time. The number 102 card is going to be the Pekka. It got quite a big range nerf, so that pretty much made it go from one of the best cards in the game all the way to one of the worst cards in the game. However, it is still slightly viable. Once in a while, you will see a Pekka bridge spam player. I feel like bridge spam cards are quite good right now, so it kind of helps Pekka still be a little bit playable, even though the Pekka itself is not the best. The number 101 card is going to be the Skeleton Barrel. Skeleton Barrel is honestly a pretty decent card. It's not a meta card or anything, but it's viable. There simply are better options like Wall Breakers and even the Suspicious Bush. Exactly at number 100 is going to be the Electro Wizard. It got a nice buff a little while back where it made it now one-shot spirits, but it seems like it hasn't really affected the card too much. People really prefer to play stuff like Musketeer with a nice evolution, or just a bunch of other ranged cards, like even Archers are better in a lot of decks, and stuff like Archer Queen applies a lot more pressure. The 99 spot does go to Tombstone, which pretty much fully fell off ever since Goblin Cage became meta. It completely took Tombstone's place in, you know, these Golem decks, in Splash Yard decks, and even in Lava Hound decks, people just started to use guards instead of Tombstone, so there just became a lot more replacements for it. At spot number 98 is the Berserker. The Berserker actually got, I believe, an 8% HP buff, but I have not seen it whatsoever. It just doesn't really fit into a lot of decks because people always want to have either a bit more substantial of a tank in the night, or they want to have some sort of cycle card like an Ice Spirit, and it's not really worth it to mess up your cycle for a puny Berserker. At number 97, we do have the Electro Dragon. Now, the Electro Dragon does have a pretty good evolution, but as I said, we're mostly focusing on the card itself. I feel like Electro Dragon, even with the evolution, is not that good right now. It's, you know, sometimes used in Golem, but Golem kind of fell off recently, and a lot of those Pekka Balloon decks completely fell off that had E-Drag, even some Pekka Ramrider decks with E-Drag, so E-Drag's main decks are just completely out of the meta right now. The number 96 card is the Trash Can on Wheels, the Sparky. Sparky does not really feel very viable to me. It was viable maybe a couple months back or so, but now it just feels so easy to stop it, just like with the new champions, like for example even Goblinstein. When you press that ability, it pretty much kills a full Sparky push. You know, the Evo Goblin Giant got a couple nerfs, Rage got a nerf. I feel like Sparky has slowly been dwindling downwards in the meta. We have the pancake-loving Mini Pekka at spot number 95. The Mini Pekka is, you know, viable in Sparky decks. You can use it in Giant decks sometimes. A lot of the time there are better options though, especially with the Lumberjack being really good right now. I feel like most of the decks prefer to have Lumberjack over the Mini Pekka, but it's an option that's relatively good. The number 94 card will be Battle Healer. Battle Healer really just doesn't feel very versatile anymore like it used to be. It used to be in, you know, Elixir Golem, in Golem, sometimes even some Bridge Spam decks, but right now the Battle Healer is really just only viable in Golem Pump, not even Golem Lightning decks or anything like that, and E-Golem completely has disposed of the Battle Healer, so I feel like they should try to come up with some way to make it a little bit more versatile again. At number 93 is the Mega Knight. I know you guys might not agree with this placement, but Mega Knight really is not that good right now if it's not over-leveled. It just really struggles in this meta to break through a lot of these cycle decks, and it seems like the Mega Knight Prince decks have kind of fallen off because they get really hard countered by stuff like Giant Prince. So I feel like the meta is just terrible for Mega Knight right now. At number 92 is the Golem. Golem did have kind of a small comeback at one point, just like maybe a month ago or so. There were some Golem Lightning Goblin Cage players kind of taking over the meta, but it seems like that was sort of short-lived, and Golem has just been kind of replaced by better win conditions, like for example Electro Giant, Giant. There's a lot of better beatdown options. Suspiciously making its way at number 91 is going to be the Suspicious Bush. Now, the Suspicious Bush I feel like has made a little bit of a comeback recently. I mean, I've started to see a lot of this one Prince Suspicious Bush Evo Barrel Logbait deck with the Goblin Curse, and it actually works quite well. The Bush often forces out stuff like Skeletons, to which you can then Goblin Curse onto and get a lot of value. It's a very pesky card, it just doesn't offer any defensive value. At number 90 is going to be the Zap. I honestly might be underrating the Zap a little bit, but I feel like without the evolution, it really is almost nothing. I mean, you could play it in, you know, Lava Hound, sometimes Giant decks, but even Giant decks, I feel like you prefer to have Rage almost always, so it's pretty much exclusively used in Lava Hound, but it gets carried by the evolution, not the actual Zap itself, and I feel like if there wasn't such thing as Evo Zap, it would be kind of just a almost useless card. Taking the number 89 spot is going to be the Golden Knight. The Golden Knight is not really that good right now because it was sometimes viable in Electro Giant before, but now Bowler is so much better, and it just is one of the worst champions. There's so many broken champions, and Golden Knight is just being outclassed so badly. We have the Princess at number 88. It got a bit of a rework to where now it is a bit worse at the bridge, but a bit better on defense. And overall, it seems to have left the Princess in pretty much the same exact spot, and Logbait is just doing decent, so I feel like this is a pretty fair ranking. The Zappies are going to take spot number 87. They are good in Recruits Piggies, but Recruits Piggies is just not the primary Recruits deck right now, and the Zappies aren't really good in anything else. They're good at countering a few select things like Electro Giants, Golems, but those two win conditions aren't the most popular right now. At number 86, we do have the Phoenix, which does feel like a decent card. It's good in Electro Giant, and that's literally it. It's just not really the perfect fit. There's definitely a lot of competition for it, so I feel like that's why it's not as good as it could be. Right ahead of the Phoenix at number 85, guys, we have the Mega Minion. The Mega Minion is basically a 3-elixir Phoenix with no spawn egg, and it does work better in some decks like Giant and some Lava Hound decks, so it's pretty similar overall. The Inferno Tower is going to be at spot number 84. It's very good in Logbait right now. Well, not very good in Logbait, but just like decent. It works in Logbait, but nothing else really, so it works in some matchups to cover some weaknesses, but it's not the ideal meta card. The Bomb Tower is at spot number 83. The main reason why it's so bad right now compared to what it used to be is because Cannon is better than it in pretty much every single way and every single matchup. I think for spot number 82, the Flying Machine is a pretty good choice. It's good in Recruits, but it's not really viable in stuff like Elixir Golem or Lava Hound the same way as it used to be, and I think the reason why is because there has been quite an uptick in Fireball usage rate. This ranking might honestly be a little bit too low, but we have the Wall Breakers at number 81. They're really not very good without their evolution. I feel like pretty much you will only see them with their Evo, and there are better options than the Wall Breakers, because in a lot of decks you don't want to have like Skeletons Wall Breakers, you'd much rather have Skeletons and Ice Spirits, so a lot of the Modern Magic Archer decks have just kicked out the Wall Breakers. Even after the buff, we have Fire Spirit at number 80. It got a bit of a range buff a little while back, but it seems like the Ice Spirit is still like 10 times better, so until that gets nerfed, we probably will not be seeing the Fire Spirit around, unfortunately. At number 79 is going to be the Baby Dragon. It was very good in Splash Yard, but now in Splash Yard, they seem to prefer to have Goblinstein, and it's not really viable in that much else, maybe some random Lava Hound decks. I think overall it's decent after the Splash buff it got, but it's just not the best in the meta. The Freeze is going to take the number 78 spot. I feel like it's actually surprisingly decent right now. I mean, there's not much Balloon Freeze right now. Maybe a little bit of Balloon Freeze here and there, but the main thing that it's actually good in is going to be the Bowler Splash Yard Freeze deck. So that has definitely been going around quite a bit, and Freeze overall doesn't even feel that bad. Not that good either, but I think you can make it work if you're good enough at it. At number 77 is going to be the Little Prince. A little while back, I would have rated it a lot higher, I think, but there's so many better champions right now than it. I feel like the champions keep on getting better and better as of recently. It seems like almost all the champions are at least kind of broken, so that's bad news for the Little Prince, and also we have a lot of better ranged units coming into the meta, like Musketeer, Archers, things like that. Moving on to number 76, we have the Dark Prince. Now, the Dark Prince, I feel like could use maybe a very small buff to where it charges a little bit quicker like the Prince does. You would think because Prince is good, Dark Prince would also be good, but unfortunately a lot of the Giant Prince decks seem to prefer to have Lumberjack over the Dark Prince, so it's sometimes used in Giant, sometimes in, Giant Graveyard, or just the Giant Lightning deck, but not much else. Minions are at number 75. I think they're good in Giant Graveyard. They're good in like a few random off-meta decks. Not really a big meta card right now, and there's a lot of arrows which affect the minions quite a bit. Not as much as the minion horde, obviously, but there are better options in most decks, like bats, for example. Moving all the way up to number 74, guys, we have the Goblin Machine. The main reason why it's so good right now, guys, compared to before, is because the Goblin Machine really works well in Elixir Golem. It does great at taking out cannons, hunters, archers, things like that, even musketeers. So I feel like it's actually quite viable right now, and it was even good in Giant for a short period, so it seems to kind of make its way into some of those broken decks just to help overwhelm your opponents. I think Mother Witch at number 73 is pretty fair because Bridge Spam seems to be getting stronger and stronger with the new Boss Bandit, and Mother Witch is just a great card to kind of pick off those swarms that people try to use to distract Bridge Spam. We have the Ice Golem moving up to spot number 72. It's not bad right now in stuff like Balloon, and you know, the 2.6 player here and there. Not too much else besides that, but I feel like Bloon has been making quite a big step up recently, and Ice Golem doesn't seem to be that bad compared to before. With quite the heavy fall to number 71, we have the Goblin Giant. I feel like the Goblin Giant really has gone through a lot. You know, the Evo got some nerfs, the Pekka got a nerf, the Rage got a nerf, the Fisherman got a nerf. Pretty much all the cards that were good with Goblin Giant got nerfed, including the Chef, the Arrows as well. And that's really why it's worse right now, because also Giant seems to be better, so that's also boxing it out. On the spot at number 70 is going to be the Dart Goblin. Dart Goblin is honestly a pretty decent card right now. I mean, you can use it in Logbait, but that's it though. Because, you know, it used to be viable in stuff like Minor Poison or some Mortar decks, but it seems to be really not the most versatile card right now. Once in a while you might see it in Recruits decks, but yeah, it's good in what it's used in, but it's not used in much. I'm not 100% sure on this one, but I feel like the Ram Rider at number 69 seems kind of fair to me. I mean, it's not used particularly a lot right now. There are a few cards that will be coming up soon that are a little bit better than it in place of it, but it's still viable with like Boss Bandit, Inferno Dragon, Bridge Spam, and not really much with Pekka because Pekka just fell off so badly, but it seems still like a really good standalone card. Number 68 is going to be the Executioner. The Executioner is obviously a lot better from the evolution. I'm not going to take the evolution super much into account, but we do have to take it into account at least a little bit. With the new knockback that it got from the evolution, I feel like it makes it just a lot better defensively, and it's quite a big threat on offense as well right now. Stuff like Hog Executioner is actually pretty good, and, you know, graveyard decks seem to be using it, so it seems to definitely be making quite a big comeback. The number 67 spot has to go to the Royal Hogs. They used to be quite a bit better, but they seem to really be struggling right now because the Boss Bandit counters the Royal Hogs Earthquake deck so easily, because that deck has 0 tanks except the delivery, which is just not enough to stop a Boss Bandit, especially if they use their ability and stuff like that. So I feel like the decks that Piggies are used in are just really bad in the meta, and that makes it hard to play. Also, stuff like Evo Cannon seems to counter them very well. We have the Royal Delivery at spot number 66. It can be pretty much the most broken feeling card in the entire game if you have the wrong deck running into it, but if you have the right deck, it's just a decent card that gets the job done but is not particularly broken. Making quite a big jump to number 65 is going to be the Battle Ram. It's actually very strong right now with Pump and the Dagger Duchess, along with the Evo Barbs. I don't know why, but I feel like people have just stopped to use Earthquake as much, and also spells and stuff in general that are good against the Pump seem to be a little bit less prevalent right now, which is allowing that one Bridge Spam deck to be really good, and overall the Battle Ram seems to be fitting quite well with the Boss Bandit too. Taking the number 64 spot is going to be the Heal Spirit. It honestly could even be a little bit higher because it is really good in that one Bridge Spam Pump deck I was talking about, also really good in Giant Prince. It pretty much just resets like 5 seconds of your troops damaging your opponent's push if they get that Heal Spirit to connect, so really just one Heal Spirit can sometimes win a game, and that is pretty broken, but it is cool to see the spirits kind of starting to balance out in strength. Taking the number 63 spot is going to be Goblin Barrel. As I mentioned, guys, or I don't know if I did, I'm pretty sure I did mention it, but Snowball has been making quite a big comeback recently with the Goblin Drill decks, and that means that Barrel is going to be a lot better if Snowball is meta, but there is also a lot of Dagger Duchess, so it's decent. Moving on to number 62, we do have Elixir Golem. Elixir Golem seems to be a very strange type of win condition where it's like really broken sometimes, then really trash, and then it just returns all of a sudden, and now it just has returned with the Goblin Machine as I mentioned earlier, and yeah, a lot of the cards in the deck seem really good, like Skelly King, like the Rage, even the arrows are still very powerful. So Elixir Golem is just a very easy card to play, so it appeals to a lot of people, and it gets the job done in a lot of matchups. In the middle of the pack is the Bowler at number 61. The Bowler is pretty good. I mean, it has nice knockback and stuff like that, but it doesn't knock back Princes. Imagine if it did, that would be insane. But yeah, we also have the Executioner now to knock back stuff, so I feel like that takes away a little bit from the Bowler, but then again, a lot of decks can actually use both the Bowler and the Executioner, like Splash Yard freeze decks. So, you know, it gets the job done right now in the meta. It's not the best against stuff like Boss Bandit, but it is viable. Directly at number 60 is the Firecracker. The Firecracker is kind of struggling right now because Hog Earthquake seems to be so weak, but I'm thinking that maybe with the Tornado nerf, Firecracker and Hog Rider could come back a little bit because they're kind of directly linked since Firecracker is basically only used with Hog Rider. I know some people find it really annoying in mid-ladder and stuff like that, but if you think about it, it really is only meta in stuff like Hog Earthquake, but it is a very pesky card that just stays alive for way too long sometimes. The number 59 card is going to be Earthquake. Now, Earthquake is a decent card, but people have gotten a lot smarter recently to where they kind of play their cannon up high when you try to Earthquake, so you can't hit the tower and the cannon anymore. And also, there has been a lot of Tornado, which Earthquake can't do anything about. Another thing is also that Piggies is less viable, and Piggies was one of the main Earthquake decks, so just a few little things in the meta have made Earthquake start to fall off just little by little. Moving on to number 58, we have the Hog Rider. Hog Rider seems to be struggling quite a bit because there were a lot of building and Tornado decks. There still are going to be even after the Tornado nerf, but potentially Hog Rider could be making a little bit of a comeback if Tornado stops to be as popular and some of those Magic Archer decks or the Splash Yard decks start to dwindle down a little bit. That'll be amazing for Hog Rider. The Inferno Dragon at number 57 does seem pretty fair to me. I mean, it's good in Lava Hound, it's good in some random bridge spam decks here and there, but it's not really the card of choice in all that many decks. So it gets the job done against tanks. It's overall good to support your pushes with, but it's nothing insane. The Musketeer is going to be moving up to number 56. I feel like the reason why it's actually kind of decent right now is because a lot of players were using stuff like the Archer Queen before in place of the Musketeer, but now with other champions like the Boss Bandit, if you still want to have that kind of ranged air card, you need to put a Musketeer instead because you can't have the Boss Bandit and the Archer Queen in the same deck. Not to mention that the fact that the evolution is making people decide to play it more often as well. At the number 55 spot, we have the Electro Giant. I feel like the Electro Giant is actually pretty underrated right now. The deck overall is just decent, but when a deck is not too strong but kind of slowly creeping up in power, I feel like that's when it's the best time for that deck because people don't really try to counter a deck if it's not super popular, but it's even if it's like fairly good but it's not super popular, people don't really try to counter it, and I feel like Electro Giant is in that spot right now. There's not as much Cannoneer as before, and there's not as many cards that can super easily counter it, so it's doing pretty good overall. The Barbarians have made a massive jump to spot number 54. The reason why they're so much better now is because they fit so well in these bridge spam battle ram decks, and it just seems like they're overall a good card again, which is really strange. I don't know why they suddenly became so good, but I guess one of the main reasons might be because a lot of people are running Lightning in their beatdown decks, and that makes the Barbarians get so much value if their opponent has no Fireball, and also it does well against Giant Prince as well. We have the Xbow at spot number 53, which actually finished number 1 in the world last season. Just in this very specific meta, Xbow seems to be really good, and it also got a nice damage buff, a secret damage buff. I believe it was a 5% damage buff, which seems to have made quite a difference for Xbow, and now 3.0 Xbow is actually quite a formidable deck. If you play it right, you can just defend pretty much anything, and it's pretty much impossible to always fully stop those little Xbow connections from happening. The Goblins are going to make their way to number 52. I feel like they're relatively good right now, but they get countered easily by Log, and they're a little bit expensive compared to Skeletons, but if you want to go for something heavier, I feel like there's better options like Guards and Goblin Gang than the actual Goblins. At number 51, guys, we do have the Tesla. Tesla's actually quite good in Xbow. It was quite good in Goblin Drill decks. The Evo actually got a nice buff as well, so I feel like it's going to be a lot more popular this season in quite a few more decks. Maybe even Logbait will start to see a little bit of Tesla in, so you know, it's a nice card. You can play it up high to avoid earthquakes, it can hit air, and it's just a very safe building choice. Directly at number 50 are the Archers. The Archers are actually pretty good right now in Xbow. I've seen a lot of E-Golem players start to use it. Once in a while you'll see some random Recruits players use it. It's just very good that you can split them, so even if there are a lot of arrows in the meta, you can still get good value out of the Archers. They're overall just very safe to play. Now, at number 49, guys, we do have the Recruits. They were probably a lot better a few weeks back when Recruits Piggies were quite good, but it seems like that deck has sort of fallen off. I'm not exactly sure why, but I feel like the meta has just started to favor quick cycle decks a little bit more recently, or just these bridge spam decks instead, and now Recruits are pretty much only used with this one very aggressive bait deck, which is not super reliable, but it is still pretty powerful, and Recruits are nothing to be joked about. We have the Pump at number 48. The Pump seems to be pretty solid right now. You know, there's just not a lot of Earthquake, and there's not a lot of spells to counter it good, so that makes Pump a lot better, and even if your opponent has like something like Miner, you can actually play the Dagger Duchess with the Pump, so if they go for the Miner on a middle pump, it basically insta dies. Now for number 47, guys, we have the Archer Queen, which was quite good in Royal Hogs Earthquake. It's definitely good in other things too, but since that deck took a bit of a hit, I can't really rank the Archer Queen to be as high, and also with the new Boss Bandit, that is going to make people prefer to use different champions and stuff like Mega Knight. So I think Archer Queen will be used a little bit less. The number 46 spot is going to be taken by the Magic Archer. The Magic Archer was probably a little bit better before, but since Tornado got a nerf, I feel like it's going to be a little bit harder to play it. But it just seems so easy to get so much damage with it. You can just go for it on a single Ice Spirit, and you get like over 400 damage just like that. And if it's on a knight, you basically take half their tower, and sometimes they just can't stop it. The Snowball is going to be at number 45. The Snowball is really good in Balloon, it's really good in Goblin Drill with the evolution, even without the evolution it's quite good, and I'm sure there's quite a few other decks that can use it as well. It seems like it's starting to make a bit of a comeback, and starting to compete a little bit with the Log right now since Log got some Crown Tower damage nerfs, so Snowball is actually in a pretty healthy spot overall. We have the Goblin Drill at number 44, and it's pretty much solely because of the Snowball. The Snowball Goblin Drill combo is just so incredibly broken to be able to Evo Snowball a Valkyrie, Evo Snowball a Dark Prince. Even just a normal Snowball onto something like a Ghost can get your drill insane amounts of damage right now. Taking the number 43 spot is the Mighty Miner. I feel like the Mighty Miner is not bad at all right now. It's good in recruits. There's quite a few other decks that you can run it in. It's often not the champion of choice in every single deck, but I feel like it's definitely usable in stuff like Hog Rider, in some Miner decks and things like that. Just a lot of random stuff, and I think overall it's quite a healthy champion. Even though we now have the Boss Bandit, we still have the normal Bandit at number 42. I think the Boss Bandit does kind of knock it out of some decks, but also a lot of the time the Bandit can actually be used together with the Boss Bandit, so it's still a relatively nice card to play in bridge spam decks. Number 41 has to be the Skeleton Dragons. They're very good in Lava Hound. They're really just good in almost any beatdown deck in the game, ever since that 1 HP buff they got to where they can survive arrows and a zap. I feel like they're quite a bit more usable. They survive quite a bit more than they used to, and they're overall just a good damage dealer card. At number 40, guys, we do have the Rocket. It's quite good in some Minor Rocket decks, can be used in Goblin Drill and Hog Executioner, in Logbait, probably a few other things I'm not mentioning as well. It's just a good spell overall, and it can kind of allow you to outdo those poison decks. Like, Minor Poison usually does lose to Minor Rocket because the Rocket just does do a crazy amount of tower damage despite how many nerfs it got, and it does get the job done on defense quite a bit as well. Number 39 is going to be the Night Witch. Night Witch is very good in Giant Graveyard, very good in Elixir Golem, and you can always use it in random Golem decks and things like that. It seems to do quite a good job right now. You basically get a free win if you face a Cannoneer deck, even if you face a Dagger Duchess deck when the Duchess has no ammo after your Giant soaks it all up, then your Night Witch does get a ton of value still, so it seems to be a relatively good card right now for offense, and it can defend stuff relatively well too. The number 38 spot does go to Graveyard. I would have ranked Graveyard a little bit higher before, but since Graveyard got the indirect nerf of the Tornado being nerfed, I feel like it might be a little bit weaker right now because you can't kill stuff like Spear Goblins with the Tornado like you used to. So that's really the only reason why I'm putting it lower. It overall is very broken, just having that random number generator mechanic for where the skeletons are going to spawn. The Lumberjack at number 37 might be a little bit generous, but I think even after the nerf to the evolution, the Lumberjack as a card should still be pretty decent in these giant decks. I mean, still having that rage up effect when it dies is going to really allow your princes to go crazy and your giants, things like that. And it's just a very fast card, so it's very hard to deal with, especially if you rage up a Lumberjack. It just goes basically straight to the tower. It's happened to me so many times. Now, for the number 46 spot, guys, we do have the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie is very good in Lava Hound, it's good in Hog Executioner. There's quite a few other things that you can run the Valkyrie in, and it just counters Goblin Drill well, it counters Recruits well, it counters Piggies well. It's just a very safe card to run in decks where you just need a strong, reliable defensive card. Boy oh boy do I hate this card. At number 35, we have the Hunter, which has just been so incredibly annoying recently in RG especially, and it's mostly just RG that it's running, but it just such a carry card for RG decks. It counters Lava Hound, it counters Giant Prince well, and it's just a very annoying card, especially behind monks and stuff like that. It's hard to do anything because you want to play something on top of it instead of on the monk, which is going to reflect your stuff, but then the Hunter just annihilates it. Even at a far range, it does a lot of damage. Now, for number 34, we do have the Goblin Cage. The Goblin Cage has been really good in Splash Yard, it's been good in some Lava Hound decks, quite a few other things too, like Golem, some random E-Giant decks even, and it's just a very hard card to ever break through. Even Lightning doesn't kill the Goblin Brawler anymore. I think the number 33 card in the game right now is going to be Giant. It's just so broken with the Prince. I can't really say it's the Giant's fault itself, although it partially probably is because it has so much HP, and just to give you so much time to make that Lumberjack Prince push is really powerful. It doesn't have the range that it used to have, but it overall is just a very strong offensive card, and you can even tank stuff with it on defense, or even kite stuff too. Even after the nerf it got a little while back, we have the Cannon Cart at spot number 32. It just seems like the really carry card of these mortar bait decks, and mortar bait has been really, really powerful for quite some time right now. The cannon cart will just kind of get value on defense, then your opponent will spell it down, and then it's kind of like on the map over here, then you just mortar next to it, and you get value out of the second form too. It's just a really strong ground card, but the one weakness is that it can't hit air. Number 31 is the Electro Spirit. It's really, really good right now in RG decks, and sometimes even random decks like Hog or Xbow can make quite good uses of them, because it helps them stop stuff like bats, helps them stop skeleton kings, and a lot of those swarm stuff that can normally be a little bit of a pain. Even stuff like graveyard gets countered by Electro Spirit. Number 30 does belong to the Skeleton King. I honestly might be underrating the Skeleton King just a little bit because it's so good in Elixir Golem right now, so good in Mortar Bait. There's probably a few other random decks that it's used in too, and it's just a very annoying offensive card because the ability is so wide that even a log can't seem to fully counter it almost ever. It seems like always a couple of the skeletons will just, mingle off to the side, and then your log allows that Skelly King to still get quite a bit of value on offense especially. I decided to put the Ice Wizard at spot number 29. It's just so strong defensively right now in Mortar decks, in Splash Yard, sometimes even in some Icebow decks or some Mortar decks here and there. It just seems to be quite versatile now. You don't even always have to play Tornado with it anymore, and ever since that splash buff it got to where it has a bit of a wider splash area, it actually is quite capable of taking out swarms as well, so the slow effect of it really is what makes it so good, in my opinion. Now, 28 is going to be the Knight. The Knight is just the quintessential tank card of Clash Royale. It basically always gets the job done. It can counter Boss Bandit well, it can tank for a Dark Prince, it can tank for a Prince. It's just always a safe option for cycle decks. The Bomber is going to be our number 27 card. I think the Bomber is very good in Giant right now, it's very good in Goblin Drill. It really does box out a lot of other cards, for example the Goblin Demolisher, from being good in Goblin Drill. And yeah, it's just very cheap. It doesn't target air, but it's so cheap that it doesn't really matter. This does kind of pain me, guys, but at number 26 is going to be the Goblinstein. I feel like the Goblinstein does deserve a bit of a higher ranking, but because of the Boss Bandit, I think it'll be used a lot less, despite being a very strong card. So that's really why I think it'll be used less. It's still quite good in minor decks and stuff like that, but it really does struggle at countering Boss Bandit, and I think people will gravitate towards other champions. For the 25th spot, we do have Lava Hound. I believe Lava Hound will actually be very strong because it seems like it always sort of picks up towards the end of the season because a lot of decks sort of just forget to include enough air defense, and I feel like Lava Hound is a really good counter to Boss Bandit decks because Boss Bandit can be countered by cheap stuff in the Lava Hound decks like guards and stuff like that, and then you just will punish them with the Lava Hound and it is going to be broken. Now, the most annoying card in the game, okay, maybe not the most annoying, but very close to it, at number 24 are the Spear Goblins. The annoying thing about them is that they seem to always go straight towards the tower. Like, even if you place something right next to the tower, they always go straight for the tower instead of targeting that thing on the side, unless you literally block the lane with that troop. I don't know why Spear Goblins do that, but they're so good in minor decks, they're so good in Goblin Drill, they're so good in a lot of different stuff like Mortar too. Now, I do not know how this is possible, but at number 23 we have the Monk, guys, which just made a generational comeback. It basically is being used everywhere in these RG decks. It does so well at countering the buildings in the meta like Cannon, which basically get insta-killed. It counters Musketeer, it counters Wizard, it counters Cannon Cart. Most of the stuff that counters RG dies to Monk, so that, yeah. The Barbarian Barrel is at number 22. It's a very solid small spell right now. It's good in beatdown decks, but it hasn't really made its way in any other decks besides beatdown. And, it gets the job done. It's not the best small spell, though. Number 21 is going to be the Balloon. I feel like it's so annoying right now because you can always stop it from getting those hits at least most of the time if you have good air defense, but it feels like it always gets death damage no matter what, which is so annoying because half the time the Balloon players don't even try to get a Balloon connection, they just try to get the death damage, and that really adds up to take those 400 damage bombs every single time. Now, at number 20 is the Poison. I think the Poison is very good in stuff like Splash Yard and these minor decks and things like that, but I believe Splash Yard will make a very slight fall off with the Tornado nerf. At least I hope it does. Maybe it actually won't, but, it's good in that, and it's good in minor. Minor's very good, and, it's a great spell overall, but there are a few better spells right now. Number 19, guys, is going to be the Mortar. It seems like the whole Mortar deck is basically filled with broken cards. We have sometimes the Boss Bandit in there, sometimes the Skelly King, the Bats, the Miner itself. Just a lot of very good cards, and the Mortar fits perfectly in there and does a good job on both offense and defense. It's just a very versatile building. Number 18 is going to be the Fisherman. The Fisherman actually got some sort of glitch happening to it recently, or I think it might have been intentional, but it no longer seems to pull bandits and stuff like boss bandits properly, because like it doesn't reset the charge anymore. Also, same goes with Mega Knight, which I'm kind of happy about, but it seems like the Fisherman is still so broken. It's still so popular with RG and stuff like that. I don't know if it deserves another nerf or not, but I almost feel like it could maybe get a slight hair of a nerf to potentially the slowdown or something like that. Now, at number 17, guys, we have the Goblin Gang. Obviously, a very good bait card in Logbait, very good in Mortar Bait, and there's quite a few other things that can use it, like Recruit Spam and stuff like that, so it's a very popular card. It does have some competition in the guards right now, but overall, I feel like Goblin Gang is very powerful from the Spear Goblins being really good, and also they added that third Spear Goblin a long time ago, which has allowed it to finally start to flourish again in the meta. The number 16 spot, I would say, should go to the Bats. The Bats are very good in Mortar, it's good in Minor decks, and it can be thrown into some random Mega Knight decks and just a bunch of other stuff. Very versatile right now, and it's nice how you can also split them to sometimes make double lane pressure using like a Miner or something like that to tank both of your opponent's towers. Despite the nerf, I think Tornado will still be a top 15 card in Clash Royale. It doesn't do as well at countering swarms anymore, but it still can activate your king tower, still can pull stuff into your pushes on offense, still can defend well. It just can't always rely sort of like a Arrows type of card. It can't always kill Goblin Gangs and stuff like that like Arrows would, so I think that's fair, and I think Tornado will still be very popular. The number 14 card in Clash Royale is going to be the Prince. It might be even a little bit higher than this, but I feel like there are a few things to counter it that are going around, like the guards, for example, Goblin Gang recruits, stuff like that. But yeah, the Prince just charges way too quickly. I think they need to make the charge speed 0.5 tiles slower. My number 13 card is going to be the Royal Ghost. The Royal Ghost is so good in RG, it's so good in these bridge spam decks that are popping around, and it's such a cheap card that seems to always force out so much elixir from your opponent, because if it has 1 HP, it's going to automatically get over 300 damage. If it has 2 tower hits of HP, it's automatically going to get like 600 or 700 damage. It's just way too good, man. Now, moving on to number 12, we do have the Ice Spirit. The Ice Spirit is very good in Cycle. It's the spirit of choice right now, and I feel like 1 Elixir Cycle cards are kind of bound to at least have some popularity, just because decks want to have cheap cards so that way they can get to their strong cards a lot quicker. And Ice Spirit is just a really good defensive card, good on offense. Overall, very solid. Making our way to number 11, guys, we do have the Lightning. I think the Lightning is super good right now in Giant, good in E-Giant, good in Golem. There's a few other things that Lightning is good in as well. It just does way too much Crown Tower damage, I feel like. It pretty much does what a Rocket does, except it can hit in a much larger area. So I feel like it might deserve a very small nerf of some sort, maybe a small Crown Tower damage nerf. Maybe all spells could get a small Crown Tower damage nerf. I do not know how this is possible, guys, but despite a, I believe, 20% damage nerf, Rage is still a top 10 card, guys. It's so broken with broken things. It's kind of like the Mirror. It's so good with broken things because it just rages up that Prince to go even faster. It rages up that Lumberjack. It rages up that Giant to go even faster. So it basically just makes broken cards even more broken. And with the damage nerf, it still kills what it needs to kill, and just having that boost in speed and attack speed is really helpful. My number 9 card is going to be the Skeletons. The Skeletons are very good. They're very good in cycle decks and stuff like that. We do have a bit more competition for them right now, though. But there's not much I can say about them. They're cheap. They distract princes. They can help you activate your king tower. They really do all you need in a card. I absolutely hate to see this, but at number 8, guys, we do have the Royal Giant. The Royal Giant is so incredibly annoying right now. It's so good with Monk, it's so good with the Ghost, it's so good with Fisherman. It seems like all of the cards right now in Royal Giant are incredibly broken, and that makes the RG itself just get supported so well to where it just gets straight to the tower every single time. It feels unstoppable sometimes. I think arrows are still a top 7 card in the game, despite the radius nerf they got. The radius is still big enough to hit really all you have to hit with the arrows, it's just that you actually have to aim it a little bit now, whereas before you could just throw it over there to Mars and it would still hit Earth. So they're still good. Even though Cannon got a small nerf, I think it is still going to be fair to put it at number 6. It's the best building right now in the game. It's used in pretty much every single cycle deck. Some people are starting to put a little bit of Tesla and stuff like that instead of the Cannon, but overall Cannon is just very cheap and it has very high on-point DPS. Our first card in the top 5, guys, is going to be the Fireball. The Fireball is very good in RG, it's good in some Goblin Drill decks, and there are a lot of other stuff you could play it into. Fireball just seems to be one of the better spells right now. It's not quite as broken necessarily as stuff like Lightning can feel like at times, but it's just very safe to play. You can even run it in Giant decks over Lightning, and I think it's also good in stuff like Xbow too, so it's just the spell of choice. At number 4 is going to be the Log. I believe the Log is currently the best small spell in the game right now. It's just seemingly so broken even after all the Crown Tower damage nerfs it got. It feels like they just can't kill the Log. I don't know what they have to do to balance it. Maybe just another very small nerf of some sort could balance it a little bit more, but I don't really want to see a meta without Log, because then Evo Dark Goblin would be so good, Goblin Gang would be so good, I mean, everything would be busted. Guys, we do have the Miner making its way to the top 3 for the first time in a very long time. The Miner is a card that can just fit in Mortar, it can fit in Giant, it can fit in Lava Hound, it can fit in Miner Poison Cycle, Miner Magic Archer. Pretty much every single deck can run Miner. It's so annoying how good it is. You can just get free damage on the tower without having to make any sort of push. You just play it and it gets right on the tower. It's just pretty much impossible to ever counter easily. Now, spawning right into the top 2, guys, at number 2 we have the Boss Bandit. The Boss Bandit is just so good, guys. It's so much better than I thought, because I feel like if the meta was full of Pekkas and stuff like that, it would be a lot weaker, but Pekka got nerfed so heavily, and a lot of these big cards that could kind of DPS it down are just not meta. So now just a lot of cycle meta cards that are kind of squishy, and Boss Bandit just shreds through that. You know, you can use the ability, play games with your opponents and just get straight to the tower. It just gets so much damage. Even at like 5 HP, it gets 1,000 something damage. And now, guys, the number 1 card in the game, I believe, is the Guards. They counter Prince so well, they counter Boss Bandit, they counter Miner, they counter Graveyard, they counter everything. So guys, let me know if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this tier list, if you think I was right, and have a good day.